This edition of MacVoices is supported by Care.com, the easy and reliable way to find and manage care for everyone in the family. Save 30% on a Care.com premium membership using the link care.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we had a chance to talk to a lot of our friends at NAB in Las Vegas a few months ago, but we're going to do a follow-up this time to something that is out by the time you see this. I want to welcome back to MacVoices Jim Tierney of Digital Anarchy. Jim, it's great to see you.
Yeah, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here, because I know you're packing for IBC, and so it's kind of a busy time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah.
And of course, the software we're talking about is Transcriptive, something we got a little bit of an early peek at NAB. And so now it's all tooled up, ready to go. And I'm anxious for you to tell us a little bit more about it and how it works, and if there have been any changes since we were able to see it back then.
Yeah, so Transcriptive is a plugin for Premiere Pro. It's only for Premiere Pro right now. It was really the only app that gave us enough hooks into the application to do a fully integrated solution. There's ways to use metadata with other apps, but for Premiere, we can actually build it right inside Premiere. And so that's been great. And so what it does is it uses AI and machine learning to transcribe video. And this is awesome for a number of things. One, you can do captions, subtitles, kind of the obvious things that you can do once you have a transcript, inside of an editing app. But the other cool thing that you can do with it is search all that text. So now you can, you've turned all the speech into text. You can now search that and jump to, find phrases and words and jump to the point on the timeline where that stuff was spoken. So that's a very cool use of it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if I use this, let's just say I take this interview, dump it into Transcriptive and have it pop out. Does that mean then that I will have a text transcript of the show that I could then publish on the website along with the interview? Yeah,
definitely. And so, the way Transcriptive works is, you buy the plugin like you normally would. Our traditional way of working is we sell perpetual licenses. There's no subscription. There's no any of that stuff. And then we allow the user to sign up with two different AI engines and use those for the speech to text. And the advantage there is the user basically gets the wholesale cost of the minutes because they're just signing up with the speech service directly. We're not acting as a middleman and marking up the minutes and stuff like that. So they can sign up with either IBM's Watson or another company called Speechmatics. And the difference there is IBM Watson's cheaper. You can get 1,000 minutes free per month. So it's pretty inexpensive. And if you're using it just for kind of the search stuff, that's a great way of going. Speechmatics is about 7 cents a minute, depending on how you set it up. It can be a little bit less than that, but usually about 7 cents a minute. And it's much more accurate than Watson is. And so if you're using it for transcriptions, Speechmatics is really the way to go because there's just going to be a lot less cleanup. The accuracy can be as high as like about 95%. Usually it's between 90 and 95, so it's quite accurate. And yeah, so you're just using the artificial intelligence and machine learning to get accurate transcriptions.
Is it fair to ask if it's 90 to 95% with Speechmatics, what kind of percentage do you see out of Watson, or is it just not a fair comparison?
It varies. If you have well-recorded audio with very little noise in the background, Watson can do actually a really excellent job. I mean, on really well-recorded audio, they're pretty comparable. It's really when you start having background noise, you're out on the street recording somebody, that Speechmatics really shines, and you really get very accurate transcripts, despite the fact that you've got a whole lot of noise in the background or other stuff going on. Okay. Yeah, it's great with accents. If you've got a lot of background noise, Watson just really falls apart and doesn't do a good job.
Oh boy, so many things here. So we have the ums and ahs and ers and that kind of thing that are an inevitable part of speech. How well does this handle that, or do we get the ums and ahs and ers transcribed right along with everything else?
That's been interesting. Speechmatics does a great job of getting rid of them. We've had users complain about that, where they want the ums and ahs in the transcript. I think most people don't want them, and so it's usually a benefit. Watson tends to keep them a little bit more, but if you're using Speechmatics, it's going to eliminate most of those types of sounds, which I think in most cases is beneficial.
So we don't have an or ah filter in this software yet.
Well, I mean, but there is. You can't turn it on or off. That's the thing. It's like Speechmatics will remove all the ums and all that stuff. It won't show up in the transcript. Mm-hmm. It just shows the words. But I think some people would like them turned on. But right now, Speechmatics just gets rid of them, and it works very well at doing that.
Okay, so how about the technical language? I mean, this is a technical podcast, and there are medical podcasts out there, and there are engineering podcasts out there, and there are fishing podcasts out there. Everything has its own language. How well does this adapt to that? And I'm quick to say that I understand that even with the very best recording and all, you're still going to have to go through and do a proof pass before you'd want to publish this. But given that, how well is it going to understand Ethernet and SCSI and anything technical that I might throw at it?
Ethernet, it will probably handle fine. SCSI, probably not so much. For the very industry specific jargon, it does okay, but it doesn't do great. It's really where you've got the more usual common language that it does a great job. If you start getting into really niche type words, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it just depends. And unfortunately, there's no way right now to train it. Speechmatics themselves, I mean, they do a ton of training, but there's no way on the user side right now to train it. We understand that there's some functionality coming from the speech services that might allow that, in the near future. But for the time being, you don't have the option of saying hey, here's all the list of words, for, medical, and have it, and train it on those words.
That said, does either service allow you to maybe throw several, eventually several hundred hours of audio at it and have it adapt a little bit, or is it just it is what it is from start to finish?
I think it's mostly it is what it is. If you did throw hundreds of hours at it, I think it is using that information to train, and so I think it does get a little bit better on words if they're constantly used. But that said, mostly it is what it is. You'd have to throw a lot of training data at it, I think, for the AI to really pick it up, because of course any one user is just a very tiny amount of the data that they're getting. And so, while it might seem like a lot to you to throw 50 hours at it, to the engine overall, it's really not that much.
Yeah, that's a real good point. So it's Adobe Premiere only. Any plans to move it to Final Cut or to a standalone app or any other NLEs?
Yeah, we're definitely planning on doing either a standalone version or a web version, which will allow you to move the metadata to the other apps like Final Cut. We'd love to do it for Final Cut, an integrated solution, but Apple doesn't give us kind of the control and hooks that we need to do that. So you're kind of stuck just kind of doing this metadata carousel where you're sending metadata out of FCP and taking it out of transcriptive and sending it back to FCP, and that works okay, but it's not as nice as having everything living right within Premiere. So that's why we did Premiere first, but the web version is coming, and that will allow access to stuff like Final Cut, Resolve, and Avid, and some of the other editing apps out there.
I'm happy to welcome Care.com as a new sponsor of MacVoices because they provide such an important service. Care.com is an easy and reliable way to find out and manage care for everyone in the family. But this time, I want to focus on the need for the care associated with a senior member of the family. If you have ever been faced with a situation where home care becomes difficult or impossible for you or the rest of your family to provide, you know how literally terrifying that can be. Been there, done that, and it isn't something you want to go into unprepared. Trying to find the right care provider for the services needed, making sure that they can be trusted and relied upon, those are the kinds of things you absolutely need to know at a time when you don't have the time to check the references or do the interviews. That's where Care.com comes in. They help connect you with all levels of caregivers so that your loved one can stay at home where they want to be and where you want them to be. 90% of individuals want to stay at home, so I'm betting that if you find yourself in this situation, that's where your loved ones are going to want to be. Did you know that 10,000 so-called boomers reach the age of 65 every day? That fully half of American adults in their 40s and 50s are providing some form of care for children or disabled or aging relatives? The point is that Care.com can help you find the personalized care for your loved ones in the comfort of their own home. Help with meals, errands, housekeeping, transportation, personal care, companionship, and more. And at a cost that's less than you think and is easy to pay. You can actually save money by switching from a care agency to in-home care, as much as 50%. If you're in this situation, visit care.com/MacVoices to not only learn more, but also save 30% off a Care.com premium membership. That's care.com/MacVoices. Even if you're not in this situation, you never know when something might happen to even the healthiest member of your family, and you need assistance. Check it out now and find out about the resources that are out there. Thanks and welcome to Care.com as a new sponsor of MacVoices. Yeah, I'm afraid that I'm focused a little too much on the transcript concept, that, okay, I can take this show and get a transcript of it. And I'm overlooking the benefits of having this as part of the NLE. And so if you could talk a little bit about that, because that's something that, because of what I do, I don't always adapt to quite as well. And I want to make sure we highlight that.
Yeah, so I mean, the search aspect of it, having all this data living within Premiere, is really huge for a lot of different types of editors. So, if you're working on a documentary and you've got 50 hours of footage and you're like, I know this guy said this thing and I don't know where that's at, you can just type it into the search field and, it'll go through you can search through hours of footage pretty easily and find out exactly where that was said and then jump to it on the timeline. Both either for, Premiere sequences or for the clips themselves. So, it's really a powerful way of editing. And also, the cool thing about Speechmatics is if you already have the transcript, say you use common thing to get the transcript, you can import that into Transcriptive and then use Speechmatics to sync up the existing transcript with all the audio that's in your video footage. And so, you don't have to go through and edit it. If you already have a transcript, you can just sync it up. And that's another way of using text for searching video. And so I think for lots of different uses, being able to easily find where stuff was spoken is going to be key.
Is that something that could be used for subtitles then?
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you already have the existing transcript or you already have a script written or whatever, you can just pull it in, sync everything up, and then, what Transcriptive does is allow you to then export to different types of formats, whether it's SRT or VTT or SMPTE or whatever, for captions, subtitles, all sorts of uses. Just for SEO for YouTube,
Yeah. Now, you said it handles accents. How well does it handle other languages other than English?
Pretty well. We've done limited testing. Watson supports 7 different languages. Speechmatics, I think, supports 18 or 19 different languages. We've done some testing with Japanese. That was kind of the next language that we really want to support. What we ended up doing is allowing the user to, just giving them a drop down and letting them select whatever language they want. So they do have access to all the different languages. The reports we've got for, some of the European languages, for the main ones, it works really well: Spanish, Italian, French. We had some reports that Portuguese was maybe not so great. But since I don't speak Portuguese, I can't tell you we haven't really done enough testing on with native speakers to know exactly how well it works. Right now we're just trying to get the English version out, and then we'll worry about that later. But we did do a lot of testing with Japanese speakers. We have a reseller over in Japan, and they did some testing with native speakers, and they were really, really impressed with the Japanese translation or transcriptions. So we think that for some of the languages it actually works quite well, and should work just as well as the English transcriptions.
Okay. Now, when I ask that, I was thinking about the people are speaking French, and I'm getting a French transcription back. Do we have translation capabilities here as well, or is that really?
There's no translation. It's something that we potentially could add later on. My opinion of the translation AIs is that they're not great. I think you're not going to be able to use that for really much in the way of real video production. I don't think it's quite there yet, at least what I've seen. Now that we've gotten into this whole artificial intelligence thing, I mean, we're definitely keeping an eye open on all the other things that we can bring into products for video editors, and it'll make sense. And certainly translation is one of them. Certainly something that people have been asking for, but anyone that's used Google Translate, which is probably about as good as anything out there, knows it's not super awesome. Functional, you get the gist of it, but you're not going to want to put that in front of native speakers.
Right. Well, you see the same thing with Facebook translating their entries and Twitter translating their entries. You said it well. You get the gist, but I wouldn't want to rely on the shades of meaning. And I guess I'm as biased as anybody else. You see the ads on TV about IBM's Watson, and you think, okay, how far has this really gotten? I'm not familiar enough with Speechmatics, and they sound like they're a bit more specialized. But at the end of the day, they're all just as good as they are at the moment. But everything does seem to be improving.
Yeah, they're definitely improving. I think the AIs that are specializing in certain niches tend to be better than the big AIs that kind of just try and do everything. We found that Speechmatics, that Google, Bing, and Watson were all more or less about the same level in terms of quality of the accuracy of the transcription. And then Speechmatics was really just head and shoulders above all three of them. There's another one that we're looking at that we'll probably implement, later on this year, that actually does have some ability to train within the AI itself. So the nice thing about us not marking up the minutes is that we're not attached to any particular service. So as new services come online that we think are either cheaper or better or both, we can just add those into the software, and the user can sign up for them and pay 2 cents a minute as opposed to 50 cents a minute or 20 cents a minute, or what you typically see with some of the other services out there that are charging per minute.
Yeah. Jim, this doesn't feel like this is quite your usual beat. You guys have been known a little bit more for the visual stuff. This seems like for a new direction for Digital Anarchy. Is it one that you intend to pursue, or do you see it as just part of the deal, that it's one more thing you can do?
It's one more thing we can do. Our deal is like making tools for video editors, and traditionally that has been visual effects software. BD Box for doing skin retouching, Flickr Free for deflickering stuff. And so that's definitely been our wheelhouse, up to this point. But, we've always been keeping an eye open on, what kind of tools can we bring into the video editing applications that will make life easier for video editors. And a lot of our products come from just, myself wanting solutions for things. I mean, part of this came from us trying to get transcriptions for YouTube videos, because it benefits SEO, and it's just better to have them. And at the time, the YouTube transcription really kind of sucked. It's gotten a little bit better, so it's improved. But that's part of where this came from, was I want to transcribe all the tutorials that we're doing and have that stuff up there. And so, you start looking into solutions for that, and, that's where it comes from. So, for us, it's really just about creating tools for video editors, and whether that's visual effects stuff, whether that's, using AI and metadata, that's all, they're all the same user base. I mean, it's all just, people editing videos, right?
Well, it's just, I applaud you. I think it's great. And anyone that's done any research on any of the transcription services know that the problems we're talking about here are exactly the same ones that you have when you're talking about even live human transcription. You have the vocabulary issues, you have the cost, you have the accuracy, you have all those things that at the end of the day, I would have to hire a native English speaker to be employed full time and be a computer geek as well, to make an Apple computer geek to keep up with the transcriptions for my show, as an example. So if you had that fishing podcast or whatever, again, you'd need that very same thing, or the medical podcast. So it is what it is. So the idea that this could be incorporated with any significant degree of accuracy is pretty exciting. And especially, what'd you say, 1,000 free minutes on Watson?
Yeah, it's 1,000 free minutes for Watson, and especially for the search stuff, it's great because you don't need it to be quite so accurate.
Right.
And then if you really want the transcription, Speechmatics is 7 cents a minute compared to $1 or $2 a minute for traditional transcription services. So I think it's really a low cost, and of course, and the results are almost immediate. I mean, you'll submit a 60-minute video to Speechmatics or Watson, and you'll get it back within about 10 minutes usually.
So that touches on the logistics of having this done. How do I do this? I import a video clip into Premiere, and then Premiere communicates with Watson or Speechmatics through the plugin. Is that the way it's done?
Yeah, so you can there's a couple different ways of getting transcriptions. One is, if you have a sequence and you've got a bunch of clips in there and it's edited or whatever, it will just take the sequence and we'll encode the audio for that sequence and then send that to the speech service. And then the speech service sends a text file back to us. We parse that, and then we display it within the transcriptive window. And then you can start making edits or searching or doing whatever you're going to do. You can also batch process a bunch of files. So you can either select a whole bunch of files or a folder or a bunch of clips within Premiere and say, hey, I want to batch process all of these. And in that case, what happens is we put the entire transcript into the speech analysis metadata within Premiere, which, if you remember back in like CS6, Premiere used to have a function for doing this type of thing. Didn't work that great, but it was a way of transcribing it and getting doing a speech to text thing and putting it into this speech analysis metadata. And so all the structure and architecture that they had for when they originally had this in CS6 still lives within Premiere. It's still there, and so we're basically using that structure and the metadata panel and dumping it all into the speech analysis section, and then you can use that to search. You can search there, and so if you're just looking at a clip base, you can find what you're looking for the clip. Find that section, drag that into your timeline, and so it's just a really easy way of putting everything in metadata and moving it around. Okay.
Again, it makes I mean, it makes perfect sense if you think about what you're trying to accomplish here through what tool. And I was about to ask a stupid question. I was about to ask, what format does it come back down in? Of course, it comes back down into text. It's a transcription. So what
format, I mean, if you're interested, is a JSON file.
I'm sorry, it was what?
A JSON file.
Okay.
JSON, which is just very common web format for sending metadata around. And so we get that back from the speech services. We parse that, put that into, pull the text out of it, and then display that within the transcriptive window. The cool thing about that is that if you have like an internet, you send off your 2 hours of video footage or audio to the speech service, and then your internet failed, or there's some other hiccup where Transcriptive doesn't get the file back, you can go to Speechmatics, download the JSON file, and then just import that into Transcriptive. So it makes it very easy to kind of work around any problems that you might run into. And you can also use that, do the same thing if you're in a facility where you've got maybe one or two machines connected to the internet. You can do all the transcribing on those machines that have the internet connection, download the JSON file, and move the JSON file over to the machines that don't have internet connections, and import them into Transcriptive that way. So lots of different ways of working with the text files to get the transcripts on the different machines.
And going back to my own personal idiosyncratic use, so then what are the logistics of me getting that text file out of Transcriptive and into, say, just your basic web editor or text file itself?
There's plenty. You can save it out as a plain text file. You can save it out as different file formats: SRT, VTT, SMPTE XML, STL. A lot of different captioning and subtitle formats. So those are the main ways. Either plain text for if you're just editing it within a word processor, or if you're pulling that into something like, say, Mac Caption or some other captioning program, or even Premiere Captions. You just export it out as one of those SRT or VTT or SMPTE, and works great. And you can also export it out to Premiere markers. So if you want to be able to search through the markers panel within Premiere, you can do it that way.
How about okay, so this is an interview, you and me, back and forth. Is there any distinction between who's speaking or what it's capturing, or is it just one long stream of text that I would need to go in and say, this is Jim, this is Chuck, this is Jim, this is Chuck?
It does do speaker identification. Neither service is particularly good at it. So there is a fair amount of requirement or a fair amount of cleanup that you're going to need to do. When the way it works is when you transcribe it, you say, "Hey, I want to turn on speaker identification," and you can say how many speakers there are, and at that point, once it sends it up to Speechmatics or Watson, it'll analyze it for that number of speakers and bring it back. It's not terribly accurate, but it's better than nothing. And then you just get drop downs next to each sentence, and you can start making changes as necessary. And then you can export that out into the SRTs or VTTs or whatever for use as captions.
Because this is such a new category of software that we all have direct access to, I'm trying to think of all the issues or problems or questions that would come up. And I appreciate your candor in the fact that, okay, some things really work well and some things are a little shaky, because it's at the end of the day, it's only going to get better. It's certainly not going to get any worse. So, and it sounds, even as it is, as a fantastic tool, depending on exactly what your need is. But if you have any of the needs we've described, man, you're a long way there. And again, better, cheaper, and probably faster than what we would have if we were talking about doing human transcription.
Yeah. And, it doesn't make any sense for me to sit here and tell you the speaker identification is amazing, because you're going to try it and you're going to go like, this is not amazing. So, it's like, I'm just trying to, I try and be honest about like what the software is actually capable of. We think it's an amazing thing for transcriptions. Does it still need to be cleaned up a little bit? Does some work still need to happen on speaker identification? Sure. But in terms of getting, very fast, highly accurate transcriptions that either can be used for captions or subtitles or for search, we think it's a great tool, and we've gotten amazing feedback from the beta testers. Adobe is just totally stoked about it, so we're happy about it.
Yeah, again, you're right. It wouldn't make any sense, but it wouldn't be the first time we've seen somebody come out with a 1.0 version of software and say, "Boy, this is fantastic," and then you get your hands on it and say, "Yeah, it's okay, but it's not quite. It doesn't bake the bread and make the coffee the way that we were led to believe." So I credit you for that, and it certainly is something we want to let people try. Speaking of trying, is there a trial version or any way that people can give this a shot before they purchase it?
Yeah, there's a trial version. You can sign up for it on the website, and we'll send you a 7-day license for it. You do have to sign up for Watson and Speechmatics separately. Speechmatics will give you 60 minutes for free. And then after that, it's 7 cents a minute. And then Watson, it's 1,000 minutes free per month. So you get there's a lot of footage you can put through Watson. And with Speechmatics, I think 60 minutes is a pretty good amount to have you get the sense of how good it is,
right?
What it does.
I also want to make sure we touch on this versions of Premiere. What version do you have to have of Premiere Pro? Is it the most current version in Creative Cloud, or can you work backwards a little bit?
Yeah, it works with 2015.3 and above.
Okay.
So Adobe added some stuff to the panel API in 2015.3, which we need in order for Transcriptive to do what it does. So unfortunately, it doesn't go back past that. But yeah, as long as you're running 2015.3 and above, you can use Transcriptive with no problem.
Now, we've been talking about Speechmatics and Watson, but how about the software, Transcriptive itself? What kind of pricing do we have for this?
That's the list price is $299, and there'll be an introductory special probably around $249, so probably through the end of September-ish.
Great. And as we said at the outset, you're getting ready to go to IBC in Amsterdam. And so if you're in the Amsterdam area or going to IBC, that means you can stop by and see Jim and see Transcriptive in action.
Yeah, we will. We don't have a booth there, but we will be in Speechmatics booth, which is in Hall 8, and I think it's C23. So we'll be doing a couple demos a day there. So definitely come by and check it out.
Great.
I'd love to see people out there.
Yeah. Well, I hope you'll come back and tell us more about all this as it progresses, along with everything else that Digital Anarchy is doing, because you do produce some awfully cool tools that work really well. And so I'm sure there are one or two things, cooking under the hood as well that we haven't heard about yet.
Yeah, there always is. And, like I said, we're really looking at all the AI stuff out there and going what kind of tools can we make and build that into the different apps, and whether it's translation or video search or whatever, there's some interesting things happening on the AI machine learning side of things that I think we'll be able to wrap into some cool products.
I can't wait. Jim, where can folks find you or find Speechmatics? Find Digital Anarchy? Facebook pages, websites, etc.
Oh yeah, digitalanarchy.com. That's the main way to find us. Certainly we're on Facebook. I think our Twitter handle is digital_anarchy. But yeah, just search for Digital Anarchy. You'll find us.
Okay. And of course, I'll have those in the show notes as well.
Yep.
Well, safe trip to Amsterdam, and thanks so much for the time and telling us about Transcriptive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
We'll see you again.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. This is really exciting. I'm anxious to maybe play with this and see just how well I can get it to perform for what we do, even if we do have a rather specialized vocabulary.
I think, I think it works pretty well for the specialized vocabularies. You start, or at least words that are used most of the time. It's when you start getting out to sort of the ends of the bell curves in terms of words that don't get SCSI, for example. It's not going to pick up that. But more common things like Macintosh or Ethernet or whatever, it does a pretty good job of that stuff.
Okay, good. I'm still looking forward to trying it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We'll be back with more soon. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.